American democracy, long seen as a beacon of stability and constitutional governance, now faces a perilous crossroads. Donald Trump, the former president and current 2024 presidential candidate, has openly declared his intention to reshape the U.S. military by purging top-ranking generals and officials who oppose him. This alarming strategy goes beyond mere political posturing. Trump's vision for a second term includes a systematic effort to replace independent-minded military leaders with loyalists who will carry out his orders without question. The consequences of such a purge could be catastrophic, pushing the nation to the brink of authoritarianism. In a democracy, the military is sworn to protect the Constitution, not any single leader or political ideology. Trump's plan to purge dissenting voices from the military undermines this fundamental principle, posing a direct threat to the separation of powers that safeguards American governance. What would happen if the U.S. military were transformed into a tool for enforcing one man's will? Would military leaders resist unconstitutional orders, or would loyalty to Trump override their oath to the Constitution? These are the urgent questions we must explore as the 2024 election looms. 1. The military's role in protecting democracy. The United States military has historically been apolitical, serving the nation rather than any particular leader. This neutrality is enshrined in the oath taken by all service members to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. This oath establishes that military personnel are accountable to the Constitution, not to the president or any political party. Throughout history, the U.S. military has played a critical role in safeguarding the nation during crises, from foreign wars to domestic unrest. Yet, it has always operated under the principle of civilian control, with the president serving as commander-in-chief. This delicate balance ensures that the military remains a tool of national defense, not a weapon for political gain. Trump's plan threatens to upend this balance by transforming the military into a partisan force. 2. Trump's purge plan, a blueprint for authoritarian control. Trump's statements make it clear that his proposed military purge is not about efficiency or competence. It is about loyalty. He has repeatedly criticized military leaders for being too weak or too political and has suggested that they are part of the so-called deep state working against him. His goal is to remove anyone who might refuse to carry out controversial or unconstitutional orders. In his first term, Trump clashed with military leaders on numerous occasions. He disparaged generals like former Secretary of Defense James Mattis and former National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster, both of whom prioritized constitutional duty over personal loyalty. Now, Trump's rhetoric indicates that he intends to prevent such dissent by filling the ranks with loyalists who will follow his commands without question. According to reports, Trump's team has already begun compiling lists of military leaders who are perceived as disloyal. Those who have publicly criticized him or who were involved in investigations like those led by Special Counsel Jack Smith are at the top of the list for removal. This purge would pave the way for a military obedient to Trump's personal agenda, not the Constitution. 3. Historical parallels. Lessons from authoritarian regimes. Trump's proposed purge bears striking similarities to tactics used by authoritarian leaders throughout history. In Nazi Germany, Adolf Hitler's infamous Night of the Long Knives purged the German military and political ranks of those who posed a threat to his consolidation of power. Joseph Stalin's Great Purge in the Soviet Union decimated the Red Army's leadership, ensuring that only those loyal to him remained in power. These purges allowed both dictators to wield unchecked control over their militaries, enabling the brutal suppression of dissent and the enforcement of authoritarian rule. Closer to modern times, Russian President Vladimir Putin has used similar tactics to maintain control over Russia's military and security forces. By removing dissenters and promoting loyalists, Putin has ensured that the Russian military acts as an extension of his political will. Trump's plan echoes these authoritarian moves, raising the specter of a military that serves the ambitions of one man rather than the democratic principles of the nation. 4. The resistance within. Will military leaders defy Trump? Despite Trump's intentions, the U.S. military has a long tradition of adherence to constitutional principles. During his first term, there were several instances where military leaders pushed back against Trump's controversial directives. One notable example occurred in 2020 when General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, publicly apologized for appearing alongside Trump during the infamous Lafayette Square incident. Milley emphasized that the military must remain apolitical and dedicated to the Constitution. The critical question now is whether enough military leaders would resist Trump's directives in a second term. Would they refuse to carry out orders to suppress protests or round up migrants if such actions were deemed unconstitutional? The answer is uncertain, but Trump's purge plan suggests that he is determined to eliminate any potential resistance. 5. The broader assault on democratic institutions. Trump's military purge must be viewed within the broader context of his assault on democratic institutions. Throughout his presidency, Trump sought to undermine the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the intelligence community, labeling them as part of the deep states conspiring against him. His efforts to replace career officials with loyalists extended beyond the military, aiming to create an executive branch that served his personal interests. The erosion of democratic institutions is a hallmark of authoritarianism. By targeting the military, Trump is attacking one of the last bastions of independence within the federal government. If successful, his purge could set a dangerous precedent, weakening the checks and balances that are essential to American democracy. 6. The stakes for American democracy. The implications of Trump's military purge are profound. If the military becomes a tool of personal power rather than national defense, the United States risks sliding into authoritarianism. The founding principles of the nation, liberty, justice, and the rule of law, would be jeopardized, and the military's role as a guardian of the Constitution would be fundamentally compromised. The stakes could not be higher. As the 2024 election approaches, the American people must grapple with the possibility that a second Trump presidency could fundamentally alter the character of the nation. Will the military remain loyal to the Constitution, or will it become an instrument of authoritarian rule? Donald Trump's plan to purge the military is a direct assault on the principles of American democracy. By seeking to replace independent military leaders with loyalists, Trump is pursuing a dangerous path that threatens to undermine the Constitution and the rule of law. The military's oath to defend the Constitution must remain inviolable, and the American people must remain vigilant in defending the nation's democratic institutions. The coming years will be a test of the resilience of American democracy. The actions taken by military leaders, elected officials, and citizens alike will determine whether the United States can withstand this assault on its institutions, or if it will succumb to the ambitions of a leader determined to bend the military to his will. The fight to preserve democracy is far from over, and the future of the nation hangs in the balance.